Fine. Am I audible now? Am I audible now? Am I audible now? Am I audible? Sorry, there was some issue here. So let me repeat this point once again. I don't know where could not listen to my voice. The first chapter of the topic of today's discussion is Stone Age culture. The topic of today's discussion basically Stone Age culture. Point. Stone Age culture. So the time period of Stone Age culture is the earliest period till 2600. So the time period from the earliest times till 2060 is referred to as the Stone Age culture. So before we understand the Stone Age culture, let us understand uh, the meanings of three different terms. We will be discussing prehistoric period, we will be discussing Stone Age culture, but before we do that, let us understand the meanings of three terms. So the historians have classified the human past into three periods on the basis of the availability of the script. Historians have classified human past into three phases or three periods on the basis of availability of the script. The first phase is the prehistoric period. So during the prehistoric period is a phase of human past when there was no script at all, no script, absolutely no script. Second is called as the proto-historic period. So proto-historic period is also a phase of our past, phase of human past, during which time script was used, but we are not in a position to read and understand the script. So proto-historic period is also a phase of our past, during which time script was used, but we are not in a position to read and understand the script. Then the third period is the historic period. So in historic period, script was used, and even today, we are in a position to read and understand the script. So the point is, on the basis of availability of the script, historians have classified human past into periods: prehistoric period, proto-historic period, and historic period. So let us understand the meanings of historic, proto-historic, and prehistoric uh, in some other way. So the point is, this is basically the syllabus of ancient Indian history. We study ancient Indian history in about 8 chapters. The first chapter of ancient Indian history is the prehistoric cultures or Stone Age culture. Prehistoric culture or Stone Age culture. So the prehistoric culture falls under the prehistoric period. Basically, the prehistoric cultures, they fall under the prehistoric period. I told you the basis of availability of the script. Our entire past can be divided into three periods. The first is the prehistoric period. So basically, the first chapter of ancient Indian history basically falls under the prehistoric period category. What do you mean by prehistoric period? Is basically a phase of our past during which time there was absolutely no script. No script. The second chapter of ancient Indian history is Indus Valley civilization. Indus Valley civilization is the second chapter of ancient history. So the people of Indus Valley civilization had used script. They did use the script, but we in the present times are not able to read and understand the script of the Indus Valley people. They did use the script, but we are not able to decipher or read or understand the script of the Indus Valley. So basically, Indus Valley falls under the category of proto-historic. Historic. As I told you, the second phase of human past is basically the proto-historic period during which script is available, but we are not able to read and decipher it. So basically, Indus Valley civilization falls under the proto-historic period category. Take a look at the third chapter of ancient history, that is Vedic or Aryan civilization. So it was during this chapter, was during the Vedic civilization time period that Vedas were written, and they were written in Sanskrit language. So even to this day, even in 2024, we are still in a position to read the Vedas and understand its content. So therefore, from the Vedic civilization time period began the historic period. From the third chapter period onwards, from the Vedic civilization time period onwards, began the historic period. And we are still in the historic period only. The historic period, what all happened till yesterday, is history for us. But when did the historic period begin? It began from the Vedic civilization time period onwards. It's still continuing even to this present, because whatever happened till yesterday is history. So now let us understand. We have now seen what we mean by prehistoric culture. Basically, prehistoric cultures falls under the prehistoric period category. So take a look at, this is what I just explained in the form of what I just explained. I have put it here in this table form. Now come to the prehistoric cultures. I told you the prehistoric cultures time period is from earliest to 2600 BC. So the point is, we study the prehistoric cultures in two phases. We study the prehistoric cultures in two phases. One is the Stone Age culture. The second is the Chalcolithic. At a point, Stone Age culture and Chalcolithic. Stone Age, we call it as the Stone Age because the earliest tools used by our ancestors were made of stone. The earliest tools used by our ancestors, human ancestors, were made of stone, stones of different types. So our ancestors used these stones for hunting activities, for cutting trees, for butchering of meat, etc., etc. So the point is, our ancestors, the earliest tools used by our ancestors were not made up of any metal. They were essentially made of stone. And they used these stone tools for a variety of purposes, such as, say, for hunting, for cutting meat, for removing the skin of the animals, for even cutting small trees, at the point, etc., etc. So the point is, these stone tools happen to be the earliest tools used by our human ancestors, and the tools used by them are still available with us. The archaeologists have collected these various tools used by our ancestors, and it is with the help of these tools, is with the help of these stone tools, the archaeologists are trying to understand the various aspects of life of the people who lived during the Stone Age culture time period. I hope I am clear. And is, we will be discussing a few aspects relating to the people of the Stone Age culture. But what is the source to uh, uh, know about the people of Stone Age culture? The source to know about the people of Stone Age culture is predominantly the stones or the stone tools used by those. I hope I am clear. Stones have become basis for the archaeologist to understand the life ways of the people who lived during the Stone Age time period. When I say Stone Age culture, I'm basically referring to earliest to 2060 time. Then, then at a much later day time period, metals also began to be used. The first metal that was used by our ancestors for making tools was copper. So hence, we call this period as a Chalcolithic period. Chalco means copper, lithic means stone. So stones continue to be used by our ancestors, but apart from stones, copper's, copper tools also began. So basically, we study the prehistoric cultures in two phases. One is the Stone Age culture, during which time mostly stones were used by our ancestors for various purposes like hunting, gathering, etc. So at a much later day time period, apart from stone tools, copper also began to be used by our ancestors. So in the prehistoric context, so in the prehistoric period context, the prehistoric period context, we have broadly two cultures. One is the Stone Age culture, second is the Chalcolithic culture. So the topic of today's discussion is this Stone Age culture. This Stone Age told you what is Stone Age. I also conveyed to you why we call this period as a Stone Age, because stones happen to be the earliest tools used by our ancestors were basically made of a stone. It is with the help of these stone tools used by our ancestors, we are trying to reconstruct the history of the people who lived during the Stone Age time period. What is the Stone Age culture time period? Basically, earliest to about 2600 time period. That's the point. Fine. Come to the further classification of stones. This is how different stones were made. This is how different types of stones were used for hunting, gathering at a point. So take a look at the Stone Age culture. So Stone Age, the time span of Stone Age uh, covers a large period from earliest, or say 2 million years ago, to about say 1000, about say 3000. So basically the time span of a Stone Age is very large. It covers a time span of about 2 million years ago, say 1000 time period, roughly. That's the point. So this Stone Age for this Stone Age can be discussed in three subphases. The first phase is the Paleolithic, second phase is the Mesolithic, the third phase is the Neolithic. We'll discuss what we mean by Paleo, Meso, and Neo. But this Stone Age time period I gave you 2 million years ago till 3000 BC. 2 million is basically 20 lakh years ago till 2000 BC is the time span of the Stone Age. Stone Age can be divided into three subphases. The first is the Paleolithic, second is the Mesolithic, third is the Neolithic period. Take a look at the timelines, a time period of each of these subphases of stone. That's the point. So the Paleolithic starts from 2 million years ago, ends in about 10,000 BC. Starts from 2 million years ago, that is 20 lakh years ago, and ends nearly at 10,000 BC. Mesolithic, on the other hand, starts from 10,000 BC, ends at 4,000 BC. Neolithic, on the other hand, starts from 7,000 BCE, ends at 1,000. So basically, we can classify this entire Stone Age, uh, the entire time period of this Stone Age is from 2 million years ago till 3000 BC. or say we can extend this time period till 1000 BC. Stone Age in India covers large time span of 2 million years ago till 1000 BC, actually we say, but we can extend this even up to 1000 BC. And we divide this Stone Age into three subphases. So this Paleolithic period, the first phase can again be subdivided into, it can be divided into three subphases. Paleo can again be divided into three subphases. The point. So the lowest or the earliest period of the Paleolithic period is we call as the lower Paleolithic period. The earliest phase of the Paleolithic period, we call it as the lower Paleolithic period. The lower Paleolithic time period is between 10 years ago to 1 lakh years ago, 20 lakh years to 1 lakh years. And thereafter becomes Middle Paleolithic, which is from 1 lakh years ago to 40,000 years. Then comes the recent, the Paleolithic period is which we call as the upper Paleolithic period, which covers the time span of 40,000 years ago to 10,000 years ago. Take a look at the Paleolithic once again. The Paleolithic begins from 2 million, ends at 10,000 BC. The lower Paleolithic begins from 2 million years ago, and the upper Paleolithic ends with 10,000 BC. So on the whole, we classify, the scholars classify Paleolithic into subphases. Are the three sub. The earliest phase of the Paleolithic is lower Paleolithic. The recent phase of the Paleolithic is the upper Paleolithic period. At a point. So take a look at the species that emerged onto this planet Earth during these different cultural phases. So it was during the lower Paleolithic period that Homo habilis, Homo habilis, while but the point is it is during the lower Paleolithic time period that Homo habilis had emerged onto the planet Earth. During the middle Paleolithic time period, Homo erectus had emerged on planet Earth. It was only in upper Paleolithic time period that present human species is the Homo sapiens had emerged onto the planet Earth. I hope I am clear. So Stone Age we have classified into three phases: Paleo, Meso, and Neo. But this Paleo can again be divided into three subphases: the lower, the middle, and the upper. At the point. So with the upper Paleolithic period ends the Paleolithic period and begins Mesolithic phase. I have put all the arrow marks here. So from the lower Paleolithic proceeds to middle Paleolithic, middle to upper, then upper proceeds with upper, the Paleolithic period ends, and from Paleolithic period proceeds to Mesolithic. From Mesolithic we proceed to the Neolithic time period. This is what we call as the Stone Age time period. At a point. Take a look at uh, the human evolution. Basically, he belongs to this species, that is Homo sapiens. But this sapien, the Homo sapiens, emerged onto this planet Earth some 40,000 years ago. So before to that, there were hominid species. Hominids are the ancestral species of the present humans are referred to as the hominids. Ancestral species of the present humans are referred to as the hominid. So basically, all of these are basically the hominids. At a point. So we are one of the species belonging to the hominid category. Hominids are basically the ancestral species of the present human being. At a point. So basically, the first hominid considered to be Australopithecus afarensis. This Australopithecus afarensis lived between some 4 million years ago till 2.5 million. So Australopithecus afarensis lived between 4 million years to 2.5. Then he became extinct. Then thereafter came the Homo habilis. Habilis emerged on this planet Earth. Habilis lived between 2.5 million years ago till 1.5 million. So this Homo habilis happened to be the first tool maker. Habilis happened to be the first tool maker. He was the one who started making stone tools, and he was the one who started using stone, Homo habilis. But Homo habilis also became extinct by about 1.5 million. Then thereafter came the third human ancestral species, that is this individual, that is Homo erectus. So this species lived between 1.5 million till 40. So erectus also became extinct by about 40,000 years ago. Then thereafterwards, two species emerged onto this planet Earth simultaneously. One is Homo neanderthalensis, this fourth species. The fifth species coexisted simultaneously. Both lived during the same time period. So from the Homo erectus emerged Homo neanderthalensis, and from the Homo erectus also emerged Homo sapiens. But in course of time, this Homo neanderthalensis became extinct. Homo neanderthalens became extinct, and what survives to the present day is Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens. I hope I am clear. Take a look at the human evolution. I have shown you was during the lower Paleolithic period Homo habilis emerged. Homo erectus emerged during middle Paleolithic period, and upper Paleolithic period witnessed the emergence of Homo sapiens. This is 40,000 years to 10,000 years. This is what I explained. Okay, point. Come to topic of today's discussion. So basically, I have put it here in this manner. What I discussed with you is basically what I have just discussed. Come to the point. Now come to the Paleolithic period. So Paleolithic is basically formed of two Greek terms, Paleo and Lithic. Paleo means old, Lithic means stone. So Paleolithic means old stone age. Paleolithic basically means old stone age. Okay, point. So this Paleolithic culture is found spread all across the Indian subcontinent, except in a few regions. The point is, this Paleolithic culture existed in almost all the entire Indian subcontinent, but in few regions of India, this culture did not exist at all. So, for example, the exceptions being plains of Ganga, the plains of Indus, and Western. Except these three regions of India, Paleolithic culture existed in almost all parts of the Indian subcontinent, except for these three regions of India: plains regions of Ganga, plains of the Indus River, and in the Western. You don't get the evidence of the existence of a Paleolithic culture in these three regions of India. So take a look at some very, very important Paleolithic sites. I explained what to mean by Paleolithic. Paleo refers to old stone age. What's the time period of Paleolithic? I already told you. Paleolithic period begins from 2 million years ago. It ends till 10,000 BCE, which I already discussed with you at a point. And this culture flourished in all parts of the Indian subcontinent, with some exceptions. The exceptions being the plains of Ganga, the plains of Indus, and Western Ghats region. So these are some very, very important Paleolithic sites. Take a look at the names of these sites. So you don't have to remember all of them. The point is, this culture existed in almost entire Indian subcontinent with some exceptions. Exceptions I already gave you. So it existed in the Soan Valley region of Pakistan, existed in Narmada Valley, It existed in Belan Valley of Uttar Pradesh. It existed in Madhya Pradesh. It existed in Kashmir. It existed in Andhra Pradesh. It also existed in Tamil Nadu. Athirimpakam is the name of the site. Nagarjunakonda is another name of the site in Andhra Pradesh. So all of these are lower Paleolithic. These are middle Paleolithic. These are upper Paleolithic sites. So basically, they existed. The Paleolithic culture existed in almost all parts of Indian subcontinent, with some exceptions. Okay, fine. Exceptions I just discussed with you. So this is the map showing the geographical spread of the Paleolithic sites. Paleolithic sites. Okay, point. So let us understand the the life of the Paleolithic man. What kind of life did the Paleolithic man lived during the Paleolithic age? Let us understand. Basically, the Paleolithic man lived in band societies. The Paleolithic man lived in band societies. The band society refers to a society in which all the members of the group are related to each other through kinship ties. What is a band? Band is basically a group of people less than 100 members. Band is basically a group of people numbering less than 100. All the members of the group are related to each other. All the members of the group are basically blood relatives. That's the point. And all the members of the group, they keep moving from one place to other place in search of their livelihood. So what is a band society? Band is basically a nomadic group, but all the members of the group are related to each. Basically, the entire group keeps moving from place A to place B, place B to place C, etc., etc. To refer to such a society, we call it as band society. So basically, the Paleolithic man was a nomadic hunter-gatherer. Paleolithic man was basically a nomadic hunter-gatherer. Hunter-gatherer. So basically, the Paleolithic man led a nomadic life. That is, he kept moving from one place to other place in search of resources. He he lived mostly on hunting and gathering. He used to hunt animals. He also used to gather the uh, edible fruits, tubers, etc. Consumed them and lived on it. Let me repeat this point once again. So, what was the life of the Paleolithic man like? Basically, during the entire Paleolithic period, you know the time period of Paleolithic period, by which we mean 2 million ago to 10,000 BC. So, during this entire period, uh, the Paleolithic man lived only on hunting and on gathering. He used to hunt different animals, used to consume the meat of those animals, and at the same time, he also used to gather edible fruits, roots, tubers, etc. He consumed them and lived on it. That's the point. And this was the kind of life the Paleolithic man lived for a very long time period, 2 million years ago, 20 lakh years ago, till 10,000 at a point. So that is what we call as the life of a Paleolithic. That's how he lived. So what type of tools did the Paleolithic man used? He used only the stone made. Used the Paleolithic man during this entire period did not use any metal tools. He only used stone tools. He used stone tools made up of different types of stones, such as quartzite. Remember this point very clearly. So during the Paleolithic period, the Paleolithic man used stones of different types, used stone tools made up of different types of stones such as quartzite, jasper, hurt, agate, etc. Basically, quartzite, jasper, hurt, agate, etc. happen to be types of stones which the ancestors, which the Paleolithic man used for making different types of stone tools. At the point. So mostly during the Paleolithic period, very crude stone tools were used. Very crude. For example, hand axes, choppers, and cleavers. There are different types of very large in size, very crude stone tools were used by our ancestors during Neolithic time period. They used stone tools made up of different types of stones such as quartzite, jasper. So towards the end of the Paleolithic period, that is during the upper Paleolithic period, during the upper Paleolithic period, our ancestors also started using bone tools. So during the most of the Paleolithic period, our ancestors used different types of stones for making tools. That point I just explained. But besides stone tools, particularly from the upper Paleolithic time period onwards, our ancestors also started using bones for making tools. Call it as a bone. At a point. That's the tools used by our ancestors during the entire Paleolithic time period. And how did they live? They lived mostly on hunting and gathering activity. They used to hunt different of animals. They used to consume those meat, and more importantly, they did not lead a settled life. They kept moving. They led a nomadic life. That is, they kept moving from one place to other place. Search of resource point. So take a look at this. The point is, the Paleolithic people also indulged in a couple of artistic activities. The Paleolithic people also indulged in artistic activities, particularly the upper Paleolithic period, upper during the upper Paleolithic period. So our ancestors started undertaking cave paintings. The point is the Paleolithic people also indulged in some artistic activities, such as say cave painting. And these cave paintings were carried out during the upper Paleolithic, not during lower and middle Paleolithic period. They began to be carried out from the upper Paleolithic period onward. That's the point. So basically, the earliest cave paintings of India belong to which period? They belong to the upper Paleolithic time period. For this artistic activity. So this was another dimension of the Paleolithic at a point. So this was the painting which they carried out inside the caves. So these were basically the types of paintings which had carried out during the upper Paleolithic time period. Come to the Mesolithic culture. Second phase of the Stone Age culture is Meso. The Mesolithic culture began from 10,000 BC, continued till 4000 BC time period. Mesolithic is formed of two Greek words, meso and lithic. Meso means middle, lithic means stone. So Mesolithic essentially means middle. Basically, this Mesolithic culture is a transitional stage between the Paleolithic phase and the Neolithic. Basically, I told you Stone Age can be discussed phases. One is the Paleolithic, second is the Mesolithic, third is the Neolithic. So this Mesolithic is basically transitional phase between Paleolithic phase and the Neolithic. So this Mesolithic culture was also found spread across the Indian subcontinent, but with few exceptions. Mesolithic culture, as plains, and fourth was also not found existing in the Ganges. Not found existing in the Ganges. So in these four regions, this culture, the Mesolithic culture, was not found existing. So other than these four areas, the evidence of the existence of the culture comes from all other parts of the Indian subcontinent. The geographical spread of this. Take a look at some very important sites of this culture. Mesolithic culture. We have Langhnaj, Gujarat. We have Bagor in Rajasthan. We have Sarai Naharra in Uttar Pradesh. Topani Mando in Uttar Pradesh. Bhimka and Alamgarh, Madhya Pradesh. Renigunta, Andhra Pradesh. At the point. Bhimbetka and Alamgarh in Madhya Pradesh. Renigunta in Andhra Pradesh. Birbhanpur in Bengal. And Kachaiburi in Odisha. So the whole point which I'm trying to convey is this important culture, the Mesolithic culture, was found existing in all parts of the Indian subcontinent, but there are some few exceptions to it. In some regions, it was not found existing at all. Exceptions I have just highlighted. Northeast India, it was not found. Delta of Bengal, not found. Of Punjab, not found. Gangetic Plains, not found. In these areas, it was all found. Now let us understand some very important developments during the Mesolithic time period. So basically, during the Mesolithic time period, our ancestors started using different types of stone tools. So during the Mesolithic period, our ancestors started using um, small, sharp stone tools called microliths. Told you during the Paleolithic period, very crude stone tools were used, but from the Mesolithic time period onwards, our ancestors started using very small sized and very sharp stone tools called as microliths. And importantly, these stone tools were hafted in bamboo sticks and were converted as composite tools. Earlier, during the Paleolithic period, only stones were held in hand, were used as tools. But during the Mesolithic time period, composite tools also began to. Composite tool means, say, for example, we have a small, sharp stone tool. This is a sharp stone tool was attached. Small, sharp stone tool was attached to a bamboo stick, bamboo, and was converted as a composite tool. Composite. Basically, what are composite tools? Basically, the bamboo, the one end of the bamboo stick was attached a sharp stone tool, and this began to be used as a spear. The spear. At the point, we call it as spear is an example of a composite. A composite. I hope I am clear. So the whole point which I'm is during the Paleolithic time period, large sized stone tools were used, but during the Mesolithic time period, small, sharp stone tools referred to as microliths began to be used. More importantly, composite tools also began to be used during the Mesolithic. And I told you this culture was found in all parts of India, but with some exceptions. Exceptions I discussed. Now let us take a look at some important developments during the Mesolithic. So we have already discussed that during the Paleolithic time period, our ancestors mostly led a nomadic life, plus they mostly depended on hunting and gathering. So during the entire Paleolithic time period, our ancestors lived on hunting and gathering. They led nomadic life. That's the point. But during the Mesolithic time period, uh, domestication of animals began. This is the most important. Domestication of animals, which was not the case during the Paleolithic time. So during the Mesolithic time period, what is the time period of Mesolithic, by the way? Is 10,000 BCE to 4,000 BC. The time period of Mesolithic, 10,000 BCE to 4,000. So basically, during this time period, the domestication or the process of domestication of animals began. So our ancestors began to domesticate different animals like dogs, sheep, goats, etc. And this evidence, the first evidence of domestication of animals, comes from a site called Bagor in Rajasthan. The name of this site is important. Bagor. I already told you important sites. Basically, the second site is Bagor, Rajasthan. From here, we get the first evidence of domestication of animals. So during the Paleolithic period, never animals were domesticated, mind you. This process of domestication of animals began during the Mesolithic time period. Get the point. Then, other second important development during Mesolithic period is uh, artificially constructed houses. The process of constructing houses began during the Mesolithic time period. So basically, uh, the construction of houses began during the Mesolithic time period. The construction of houses.